Ladies and gentlemen, we say we are looking for love, but too often, what we truly seek is the fleeting intoxication of being seen, heard, and valued by someone else. We call it love, but in reality, it is often a desperate chase for validation, an attempt to silence the deep insecurities that whisper we are not enough on our own. The modern world, so quick to offer applause and approval through screens and shallow interactions, has taught us that love is a performance, a stage upon which we dance for the admiration of others. But in this endless pursuit of validation, we remain strangers to the quiet, steady pulse of real love, the kind that is not earned but simply is. The ego, with its insatiable hunger, seeks validation as a substitute for love. It whispers, "If I can make them desire me, if I can make them need me, then I will be whole." Yet every time we grasp for this external validation, we reinforce the belief that we are not enough as we are. We hand the power over our worth to another's fleeting attention, and when the attention fades, as it inevitably does, what remains is the gnawing emptiness that drives us back into the cycle of seeking, chasing, and craving yet another hit of external approval. What we call love is often a transaction. See me, value me, make me feel special, and I will give you my presence, my attention, my affection. But love is not a transaction. Love does not demand to be seen in order to exist. It flows naturally when we are anchored in a deep sense of our own worth, when we can stand in the truth of who we are, unshaken by whether another notices us or not. Love is not the feeling you get when someone validates you. That is simply a rush of egoic satisfaction, a chemical spike that fades as quickly as it arises. Love, in its truest form, is what remains when the need for validation falls away. To love is to give without needing to receive, to see without needing to be seen, to know without needing to be known. It is a state of being that emerges when we stop using others as mirrors for our own self-worth. And yet, for many, this is terrifying, because when we strip away the need for validation, we must confront the parts of ourselves we have tried so hard to avoid, the unhealed wounds, the fears of abandonment, the belief that we are not enough. These are the shadows we try to drown in the noise of praise, the busyness of relationships, the constant craving for attention. But love does not grow in noise. It blooms in the silence of being. When we sit with our own hearts and learn to accept ourselves, not for what we can achieve, not for how we can be admired, but simply for existing, then we begin to open the door to true love. A love that does not depend on someone else's gaze. A love that is not a fleeting performance, but a steady flame. A love that arises from within and radiates outward. Until you see this, you will continue to mistake validation for love. You will continue to chase relationships that are built on a foundation of fear and need, rather than wholeness and presence. You will continue to feel the highs of validation and the crashing lows when it is withdrawn. And in this cycle, you will never know the quiet, profound peace of love that is not earned but simply is. It is a radical thing to stop seeking validation and instead turn inward. It is the work of a lifetime, and yet it is the only way to break free from the chains of dependency on external approval. To stand in your own worth, to see yourself clearly, to know that you are enough without applause, without recognition, without validation. This is the beginning of true love. And when you find this love within, you will no longer need to chase it outside. You will see that you were never lacking, never incomplete, never unworthy. You were simply looking for love in all the wrong places. And so, I ask you, are you seeking love, or are you seeking validation? Are you willing to confront the places where your hunger for approval has disguised itself as a desire for love? Are you willing to release the need to be seen in order to feel worthy? For when you do, you will discover a love that is deeper, richer, and more enduring than anything you have ever known. It begins so quietly that you might not even notice it. A glance, a compliment, a moment of attention that lights up your nervous system like fireworks in the dark. You tell yourself this is love, the spark, the pull, the connection. You feel seen, wanted, acknowledged, as though someone has placed their hand gently upon the hidden parts of your soul and whispered that you matter. And in that moment, you believe you have found love. But what if you haven't? What if what you are feeling is not love at all, but the rush of validation? What if this sensation, so intoxicating and powerful, is not the timeless, selfless love we speak of in stories and poems, but rather the echo of your own unmet need for significance? There is a difference between love and validation, though the two are often confused. Love is a state of being, an expansive presence that flows outward from within. It is patient, accepting, grounded. It does not demand. It does not seek to possess. It does not grasp at straws to keep itself alive. Love exists even in stillness. Validation, on the other hand, is a temporary spark, a fleeting surge of energy that fills the void left by a lack of self-acceptance. It is addictive precisely because it is not steady. It comes and goes, like waves crashing against a shoreline that is eroding beneath their force. Each wave of validation lifts you, makes you feel special, important, desired, and yet the very moment it recedes, it leaves you emptier than before, craving another wave, another hit, another taste of being seen. The illusion is subtle, but powerful. It begins with a belief that love is something external, something that must be earned through performance, appearance, or the approval of another. It whispers that you are not enough as you are, that only when someone else desires you, notices you, validates you, can you finally relax into the feeling of being loved. So you chase it, through relationships, through achievements, through the constant search for someone to tell you that you matter. You measure your worth by the reactions you provoke, the attention you attract, the praise you accumulate. And yet, no matter how much validation you gather, it is never enough. The feeling fades, the hunger returns, and you are left searching. Again, always searching for that elusive sense of completeness that never seems to last. This is not love. This is the trap of validation. Love does not depend on being seen or praised. Love exists even when no one is watching. It is the quiet presence that does not need an audience, the flame that burns steady regardless of external conditions. Validation, by contrast, is the endless performance. It is the mask you wear, the role you play, the identity you craft, to win approval from those around you. It is the addiction that keeps you locked in a cycle of seeking, performing, and ultimately feeling empty. The tragedy is that while you are busy chasing validation, you miss the opportunity to experience real love, both for yourself and for others. Because real love requires that you stop performing, that you drop the mask, that you stand in the truth of who you are without needing anyone to reflect your worth back to you. To understand this, you must be willing to see the patterns that govern your desires. When you feel that pull toward someone, when you tell yourself that you are falling in love, ask yourself, is it love, or is it the thrill of being seen, wanted, desired? Are you drawn to this person because you wish to share your authentic self, or because they make you feel significant in their eyes? Are you seeking to give, or are you seeking to receive attention that soothes your insecurities? Most people, if they are honest, will discover that what they call love is often an elaborate dance to gain validation. They long to be chosen, to be told they are worthy, to feel special in the gaze of another. And while this can feel euphoric in the moment, it is not love. It is the ego's need to be affirmed, the hunger to fill the void created by a lack of self-acceptance. The ego is clever. It disguises its need for validation as love. It whispers that without this person's attention, you are incomplete, that you must win their affection to feel whole. It tells you that being desired is proof of your value, that being praised is proof of your worth. And so you chase it, not realizing that every time you seek validation from another, you reinforce the belief that you are not enough without it. You become trapped in a cycle where your sense of self is dependent on how others see you. The more you seek validation, the more fragile you become. The moment the attention fades, you crumble. The moment someone withdraws their gaze, you panic. And in this panic, you chase again, desperate to restore the feeling of being seen, even if it is temporary. But love is not this chase. Love is not a performance. Love is the opposite of validation. It is the willingness to be seen as you are, without needing to be more. It is the quiet acceptance of your own being, the realization that you do not need to earn your place in the world through applause. Love flows from a place of fullness while validation arises from a place of lack. Love is steady, patient, enduring. Validation is fleeting, demanding, unstable, and until you recognize the difference, you will continue to mistake one for the other, chasing what you think is love but is really just the fleeting high of being momentarily validated by another. True love does not arise from lack. It is not a remedy for self-doubt or insecurity. It does not emerge from a place of needing to be seen or admired. Love is what flows when you stop needing to be validated, when you stop using others as mirrors for your self-worth. It is the quiet, unshakable presence that remains even when no one is looking. It is the feeling of being whole on your own, of being enough as you are, without needing another's gaze to make you feel significant. Until you find this within yourself, every relationship will be a reflection of your need for validation, not an expression of love. To seek love while being addicted to validation is to search for water in a desert where none exists. It is to mistake a mirage for the real thing, to chase illusions that vanish the moment you try to grasp them. The work, then, is to turn inward, to face the places within you that feel unworthy, unlovable, not enough. It is to sit with your own pain, your own insecurity, your own longing, and to learn to hold these feelings without seeking someone else to fix them for you. It is to stop chasing the highs of validation and instead cultivate the quiet strength of self-acceptance. Only then can you begin to experience love in its truest form, a love that is not dependent on another's approval, but that flows freely from a heart that knows it is already enough. The process of untangling love from validation is not easy. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It demands that you let go of the need to be chosen, the need to be admired, the need to be seen. It asks you to stand naked in your own presence, without adornment, without performance, and to accept yourself exactly as you are. This is the path to love, not the love that comes from others, but the love that is born from within. And when you find it, you will no longer need to chase validation. You will no longer mistake the fleeting highs of attention for the steady presence of love. You will see clearly, perhaps for the first time, that what you were seeking all along was not out there, but here, in the quiet center of your own being. There is a fundamental distinction between what the ego desires and what the soul longs for, and unless this is understood, one will continue to confuse validation with love. The ego craves attention, praise, admiration, the sense of being special, the feeling of standing apart from the crowd as someone worthy of notice. It is the voice that says, "I matter because they see me. I am worthy because they tell me so." The soul, on the other hand, seeks connection, not the shallow brush of recognition, but the deep resonance of being understood without pretense, without the performance, without the need to prove. The ego thrives on being seen. The soul thrives on being known. The ego feeds on approval. The soul breathes in quiet presence. And yet, how often is the soul neglected while the ego is pampered and celebrated? It is easy to fall into the trap of believing that being desired is love, that being admired is connection, that being chosen is proof of worth. This is the lie that fuels the addiction to validation, the belief that if someone wants you, then you are valuable. But this is not love. It is a performance built upon insecurity. The ego seeks validation to fill the void it feels inside, the constant ache of not being enough. It chases applause. It collects compliments. It measures its worth by the gaze of others. And in doing so, it becomes a slave to those external sources of affirmation, never able to rest, never able to feel whole unless someone else confirms its importance. The soul, however, knows a deeper truth. The soul does not ask, "Do they see me?" It asks, "Do I see them?" The soul does not hunger for admiration. It yearns for connection that is raw and real, stripped of the need to impress, stripped of the need to be adored. The soul does not seek to be placed on a pedestal. for it knows that true love is not built on hierarchy but on equality, on a shared humanity that transcends the need for validation. The soul is not interested in the fleeting high of being noticed. It seeks the enduring presence of shared understanding, a bond that is not contingent upon being impressive, but upon being genuine. Many relationships are built not on love, but on the need to feel validated. This is why they often feel like a roller coaster, highs when the attention is plentiful, lows when it fades. The connection is not truly about the other person, it is about what they reflect back to you. Are they making you feel important? Are they admiring you enough? Are they giving you the sense that you matter? If they do, you stay. If they don't, you grow restless, bored, or resentful. This is not the soul's desire for connection. It is the ego's insatiable hunger for validation. And the more you feed this hunger, the more it grows, leaving you constantly chasing the next person, the next situation, the next moment that will make you feel seen. True connection does not require performance. It asks for authenticity, vulnerability, the willingness to be fully present without pretense. But this is terrifying for the ego, because to let go of the performance is to risk not being admired. It is to risk being ordinary, to risk being seen without the mask, and to accept that love does not arise from being impressive but from being real. The ego resists this, for it wants to be admired more than it wants to be known. It would rather be praised for the mask than risk the rejection of revealing what lies beneath it. And so many relationships become an exchange of personas, a dance of validation where each person is looking to the other for affirmation, never truly meeting, never truly seeing, always performing. When you chase validation, you are not seeking to give love but to receive a sense of worth. You enter relationships not to share your wholeness, but to fill your emptiness. You use others as mirrors to reflect back the image you want to see, the successful one, the attractive one, the interesting one. And in doing so, you lose the possibility of genuine connection, for you are not engaging with the other as they are, but as a character in the script of your validation-seeking play. You are not loving them, you are using them to love yourself. And when they stop playing their part, when they stop feeding you the validation you crave, the relationship begins to crumble. This is why so many people leave relationships not because love has faded, but because validation has ceased, the performance is no longer rewarding, the applause has stopped, and so they move on, seeking the next audience, the next admirer, the next person who will make them feel significant. But the soul is not interested in being significant. The soul is interested in being true. The soul is not interested in applause but in resonance, the quiet knowing that another has met you not in your perfection, but in your wholeness, with all your flaws, all your messiness, all your unpolished truth. The soul does not want to be admired, it wants to be accepted. The soul does not want to impress, it wants to connect. And yet, as long as the ego is in control, you will continue to sacrifice the possibility of true love for the fleeting rush of validation. You will continue to seek relationships not to give, but to receive. You will continue to confuse being desired with being loved, and in doing so, you will miss the deeper, quieter, and more enduring beauty of connection that does not depend on being impressive but on being present. Many chase relationships not to love but to escape the loneliness of their own unhealed wounds. They seek someone who will distract them from their inner pain, someone who will provide the illusion of wholeness, someone who will fill the void they refuse to face on their own. And so they enter relationships like a beggar looking for scraps, hoping that the other will soothe their aching soul, will make them feel worthy, will give them a sense of being important. But no one can do this for you. No one can complete you. No one can fill the void that is created by your own belief that you are not enough. When you seek love from this place, you are not truly loving the other person. You are using them as a bandage for your own wounds. And this is why so many relationships are marked by drama, by cycles of highs and lows, by the constant need for reassurance, by the fear of being abandoned. Because it was never love in the first place, it was validation dressed up as love, a desperate attempt to avoid facing the parts of yourself that feel unworthy. Until you confront this, You will continue to seek relationships to fill the emptiness inside. You will continue to look for someone to tell you that you are lovable because you cannot tell yourself. And as long as you do this, love will remain elusive, a fleeting shadow that slips through your fingers the moment you try to grasp it. True, love cannot be found when you are chasing validation, for love is not a remedy for your wounds. It is the gift you offer when you have already tended to them. Love is not about being completed. It is about being shared. Love is not about being made whole by another. It is about coming together from a place of wholeness, each person standing in the fullness of their own being, offering presence, not performance. Only when you stop using others as a mirror for your worth can you begin to love them as they are, without need, without agenda, without the hunger for validation that clouds the purity of connection. And in that space, free from the ego's demands, free from the hunger for attention, free from the performance, love can finally breathe. To look closely at your relationships is to uncover the subtle ways in which you seek to control them, often without realizing it. Control wears many disguises. Sometimes it appears as kindness, sometimes as care, sometimes as the effort to be the best partner you can be. But beneath these appearances is often the unspoken belief that if you give enough, if you act a certain way, if you shape yourself according to the other's desires, then you will be loved in return. You tell yourself this is love, but it is not. It is a transaction, an attempt to secure attention, to guarantee affection, to bind someone's gaze to you so that you will not have to face the emptiness that arises when they look away. This is the craving for validation masquerading as love, and it leads to relationships that are built not on freedom but on manipulation. Every smile, every word, every gesture becomes a subtle performance, crafted to provoke a particular response, to ensure that you will not be abandoned. And so, without noticing, you become a master of control, always adjusting, always calculating, always anticipating what will make you feel seen. This dynamic creates a deep imbalance. When love becomes a tool for validation, it is no longer love. It is a negotiation driven by fear. You fear being invisible, so you work tirelessly to be impressive. You fear being rejected, so you bend yourself to fit what you believe the other person desires. You fear losing the source of validation, so you cling. You please, you manipulate, all while telling yourself that you are being loving. But love cannot be born from fear, and it cannot be sustained by control. True love is rooted in freedom. It allows the other to be as they are, without the need to change them, without the need to extract constant reassurance. Love is expansive. It does not confine. Yet when you are addicted to validation, you cannot allow this freedom, because it threatens your supply. If the other person changes, if they grow distant, if they withdraw their attention, your sense of worth collapses. And so you grasp, you demand, you tighten your grip. But the more you grasp, the more you push love away, because love suffocates in the presence of control. It cannot breathe where there is fear, and it cannot flourish when you are trying to mold it to fit the shape of your needs. This addiction to validation turns relationships into a form of possession. You see the other person not as a free being, but as a source of significance, a mirror in which you can glimpse your own worth. Their affection becomes a currency that you must earn, and their attention becomes a lifeline that you cannot afford to lose. You do not love them as they are, you love what they give you. And when they no longer give you what you seek, when they stop praising you, stop desiring you, stop reflecting back the image you want to see, you feel betrayed, abandoned, discarded. But this is not because they have taken love from you. It is because you were never truly loving them in the first place. You were loving the way they made you feel. You were addicted to the validation they provided, and when it disappeared, you felt empty, as though something had been stolen from you. Yet nothing was stolen, because love was never really there. What you called love was a transaction, a trade of attention for approval, a performance designed to keep the validation flowing. The tragedy is that this need for validation blinds you to the possibility of true intimacy. When you are constantly seeking to be validated, you cannot truly see the other person. You only see what they give you. You do not listen to their needs because you are preoccupied with your own. You do not hold space for their struggles because you are too focused on how their actions impact you. You do not love them in their fullness because your attention is tethered to how they reflect your worth. Love, in its truest form, asks for nothing. It is not conditional upon attention, not dependent upon admiration, not tied to the satisfaction of the ego's cravings. It is simply the act of being fully present with another, of seeing them without distortion, of holding space for them as they are, not for what they can give you, but for the truth of their existence. This addiction to validation also erodes the foundation of self-trust. When you rely on others to confirm your worth, you abandon your own inner compass. You begin to outsource your sense of value to external sources, seeking constant feedback to reassure yourself that you are enough. You become hyper-attuned to others' reactions, interpreting every gesture, every word, every shift in energy as a reflection of your significance. You lose the ability to stand steady in your own sense of self, and instead you become reactive, swayed by the tides of others' opinions and behaviors. This dependency is fragile, for it leaves you vulnerable to the whims of others. If they validate you, you soar. If they withdraw, you plummet. You become like a leaf blown by the wind, unable to root yourself in your own worth. And so, the addiction to validation becomes a form of self-abandonment. You trade your inner authority for the fleeting comfort of being seen. The antidote is to recognize that love is not about being chosen, being admired, or being approved of. Love is not a prize that you earn by being impressive or by fulfilling others' expectations. Love is a state of being that arises when you release the need to control, when you stop trying to manage others' perceptions, when you allow yourself to be as you are and let others be as they are. It is the freedom to show up authentically, without the pressure to perform, without the fear of rejection, without the hunger for constant reassurance. And in this freedom, true love can finally emerge. Not a love that is given as a reward for meeting conditions, but a love that flows naturally from the recognition of shared humanity. Yet this freedom is terrifying for the ego, because it means letting go of the strategies that have kept you feeling safe. It means no longer measuring your worth by how others respond to you, no longer manipulating situations to get the reactions you crave, no longer clinging to the illusion that you can control love through effort. It means stepping into the unknown, where there are no guarantees, no formulas, no promises of validation. It means trusting that you are enough as you are, even when others do not affirm it, even when attention fades, even when you stand alone. This is the foundation of true love, not the search for someone to validate you, but the realization that you do not need to be validated in order to love, in order to give, in order to be whole. When you release the addiction to validation, you open yourself to a love that is no longer conditional, no longer transactional, no longer tethered to performance. You free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval, and in doing so you create space for connection that is real, grounded, and enduring. You begin to see others not as sources of significance, but as fellow travelers on the journey, each with their own wounds, their own struggles, their own need for freedom. And in this space of mutual recognition, love becomes an offering, not a demand. It becomes the simple, powerful act of being present, of bearing witness, of holding space, not to get something in return, but because it is the nature of love to give without needing to control. And in this, you finally begin to understand that what you have been chasing was never love at all, but the fleeting, fragile echo of validation that could never truly satisfy the hunger for connection that lives at the core of your being.